All right, I would like to welcome all the participants who are joining us. This is going to be a forum again on managing procurement in a price-sensitive environment. We're going to give ourselves just one more minute just to welcome everybody. So if you are just joining us, just don't go anywhere, just stay with us and we'll get started shortly. Thank you. All right, I would like to welcome all of you to this new forum organized by the Global Supply Chain Council. And today's topic is managing procurement in a price-sensitive environment. As some of you know, who are following us and attending our events on a regular basis, this is going to be an interactive panel discussion. We've invited a number of industry speakers to join us and share their experience and insight on this topic. Again, the theme of today's event is managing procurement in a price-sensitive environment. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about strategies, best practices, challenges, issues, as you cover and address those things. So let's get started first with a round of introduction. I'd like to maybe welcome each of you and get you to introduce yourself in front of our audience before we jump into our own topics. So maybe we'll start with you, Ruth. If you can just go ahead, make sure to unmute, introduce yourself to the audience. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you have a very good day today. Kindly introduce, my name is Ruth Fernawaty. I'm from Indonesia, and I joined the company with line business as printing and can making manufacturer. In my current position, I hold the responsibility as the procurement manager, procurement and supply chain management field. During my employment, I have making many cost efficiency, cost control, and some continuous improvement. I hope you can enjoy this forum discussion and get very beneficial information from all of us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ruth. Okay, moving on to, we have Christina as well joining us. Welcome, Christina. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Max, and welcome everyone to this yet another session, very well organized by our Global Supply Chain Council, founded by Max Henry here. And today's session is really something that we are so, so close to, dealing with it on a day-to-day basis. So for me, I see it as an opportunity where I can actually use that to share my own experiences, examples, good, bad, ugly, all over my 30 years of working in various diversified, I would say, industries, from technology to telco to aviation, agriculture, and the latest was oil and gas. So today, you can check me out on LinkedIn. Today, I'm spending a lot of time doing this, sharing my knowledge to the huge procurement and supply chain fraternity in APAC. So thanks again, Max, for this opportunity.
You're very welcome. All right, moving on, we have Kartik. Welcome, Kartik. Go ahead, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Max and his entire team for putting everything together and inviting all of us. So just to give a very brief introduction about me, I'm Kartik Iyer. I head the supply chain and procurement for TotalEnergies in India. And I've got a brief experience in automotive industry and transportation and logistics, mainly shipping, and of course with oil and gas at this point of time. And I'm looking forward to speak to every one of you and interact with every one of you. And yeah, looking forward for the session. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have Sapan as well joining us. Welcome, Sapan.
Thanks, Max. And thanks for inviting actually us, all of us, for this wonderful forum where all of us, can actually think about what we are doing and maybe share our views with the broader audience. I am working as a head of procurement for direct materials for Zentiva, which is a global pharmaceutical company based out of Czech Republic. I'm originally from India, but I'm based out of Prague. And I'm also responsible for the global procurement strategy. So I'll be very happy to share my views on how we can stay competitive in this very price sensitive environment.
Thank you, Sapan. And last but not least, we have Anirban Sanyal joining us. Welcome, Anirban.
Hey everybody, thanks Max for this opportunity to meet such wonderful people around the world. So depending on the location, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are based out of different places of the world. I'm Anirban Sanyal. I'm heading the supply chain for Century Ply. And I'm from India. On my personal note, I am a Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and I worked with a couple of organizations both inside India and out of India as well. And looking forward for a wonderful session ahead.
Thanks a lot. Okay, so as if you're just joining us, again, I want to remind everybody that this session is going to be interactive. So if you have any questions for our panelists, just make sure to click on the chat bubble, which is located at the bottom of your screen. We will take your questions as they come. And also the session is recorded. So if you're coming late or if you, and if you want to rewatch some part of the discussion, the recording will be made available after the live event. So let's get started with our own topics. And maybe we're going to start first about, the strategies for cost control and reduction. Based on your own experience, what do you think are the most effective strategies for managing and reducing cost without sacrificing quality in today's price-sensitive environment? Anybody would like to start?
So let's say if I start, because sometimes starting fast is always better because you have a few points to touch upon. For us, Max, what I believe that to manage the cost and without compromising quality, first we need to understand the customer's need and preference, because end of the day, the pricing strategy and the quality of the product for our consumers. So to understand the consumer, to understand their need, and to understand that as an organization, what will be the strategy, at what cost point or what price point our finished product will be positioned. That converts into our cost and margin structure. And once we have clarity on that and the pricing strategy, it gives a landscape to work on your procurement, because there will be different types of product at different price point at different quality level. And we need to be conscious and cautious of the fact that every product, every raw material, every finish is not for everybody. So once we have that clarity and also our competition what they are doing, so the cost and quality depends for us is customer need and preference. Basis that what margin and what is our product cost going to be, and the pricing strategy. Once this is determined and the competition's landscape is mapped, we go for our best quality at least cost. So once I have the price point, we don't compromise on quality, and then we go for the costing.
Interesting.
And if I can just add from there, is that, yes, that's what it is. But if there are products or parts of products which we ourselves can't produce or supply, for example, and rely on third parties, that's where suppliers and vendors will come into play. So they will be part of the whole ecosystem to see how we can actually, exactly what you say, Anirban, to look at what our end customer needs, their requirements, their discerning taste maybe. And if we want to remain competitive, we need to do something very different. So our relationship long-term with all these third-party vendors, for example, is crucial. because we are truly dependent on them, for things that we don't produce ourselves, I'm saying, so collaboration with them is one way, or looking at long-term relationships or contracts with this, critical strategic suppliers, if you will. Just throwing that into that equation.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Anybody else? Sapan, Kartik, and Ruth? Yeah. Ruth, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. In continuing, Dr. Christina, yeah. From my side, I will edit that's why if we depend on to the third party of products that we cannot produce, that's why we need to give them the forecast. Yeah, the maybe we cannot make a 100% forecast, but we can doing from the historical data, yeah, by giving the third party about 50 to 60% forecast volume. Yeah, they can make the better proper time into supply to our place. So forecast is also take a part of the pricing and for the sustainability of supply.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, Sapan.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch upon the topic that Christina and also Anirban mentioned about the supplier relationship management. I think it's very important. And what we have seen is that, the moment when we start considering the procurement as a win-lose partnership, everything starts going south. It's very important that we always consider it as a win-win partnership, because our suppliers, if they will not make margins, and for that it's very important that you understand your products really well, right? So you need to understand your suppliers really well, and you need to work with them. You need to explain the context to them, that how can we win better together, right? And that also comes to the point on supplier consolidation, right? Rather than having some hundreds of small suppliers, if you work with a couple of suppliers which are big, and then of course you have some small suppliers to de-risk, which is also very important. But at least the majority of the volume you keep with some of your big suppliers. For us, it has really helped. It has really worked. In the last 2 years, we have worked a lot on supplier consolidation, and I can tell you that for a lot of our key products, which are very price sensitive, we have the best-in-class prices in the industry. So yes, SRM for me is really very important.
And we're shifting away a little bit on my initial question, but on Sapan, on the balance between quality and cost reduction, what are you doing within your company?
Yeah, so for that again, it's important. It's important to understand the market really well. The thing is, sometimes we are a bit closed-minded. Say, for example, we would think that a supplier from a certain region might not have that quality as compared to a supplier from some other region. But again, if you really understand your product, if you really understand your market, then it really helps you to open your eyes, because if you see our spend, we are increasing our spend a lot with India and China, because the quality of products we get from India and China is same, or maybe in some cases better than the quality that we get in Europe, right? So the thing is, it's important that, and the price, I can tell you, is insanely different. So you need to be open. You really need to understand the market. You really need to understand the suppliers, and if you do so, you'll be able to get the same quality or better, but at a much better price.
Okay.
The word price, right, is it gives me, it at least for me, a very short-term view of things. It's like trying to just cut, but more about the value that we derive from the partnership with the suppliers. That they will go with us, walk this long way, and try and give us the best, without actually cut short this and do some shortcuts here and there, which is going to be impacting the entire supply chain risk. So it's that whole value thing, as well as when Ruth was saying about the forecasting. What came to mind was demand management. So meaning our relationship with our own stakeholders across all the departments to understand what exactly are you going to be needing for this particular type of third-party products in the next quarter and next quarter. Because we just can't go to a supplier every other day and say, I want to buy 5 today, I want to buy 2 tomorrow, whatever. Even if it's services, right? So suppliers need to have that view as well, before they can help us, right? So we need to help ourselves to first, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we've covered already a lot of different topics, and we might actually go back to each of them a little bit later. But Kartik, just on my original question, what's your take on this? Yeah.
Well, I think, if I'm the procurement manager, I would look, if I need a reduction in cost by not compromising the quality. I would like to see how can I reduce my supplier costs, and how can both an organization work with the supplier to reduce their cost, which could be passed on. Certain components could be kept by them, and certain components could be passed on to us. And this is how a healthy relationship will take place, and this is how I feel. Longevity could be maintained. So, of course, this, you need to understand that if a supplier is working with us for a very long time, the margins might not be the best, and it might not be the ideal thing to to ask him or her to cut down the margins, because at the end of the day, it will affect the quality.
Yeah. Sapan, you brought an interesting point about, and okay, companies for the last 20 years have been sourcing and procuring from low cost countries like China, and now they are slowly shifting and going to Vietnam and India and other places. There's also a movement around nearshoring where they are trying to bring back their suppliers or closer to the home countries where they're located. Is it still the case? And you mentioned that and not today, in China, you mentioned it has great quality at great price. For you, I know you're based in Europe. Is it still the case? Or do you have a lot? I know that also there's this pressure about bringing back some of the suppliers closer to home. So how can you balance that? Are you still going to go and buy from China, or you need to be buying from Europe now, even if the price is a lot higher than what you used to have from Asia?
Yeah, no, so that's a very very pertinent question, and actually the answer is a mixed one, because see, uh, for we have to be. I mean, we don't. I don't have a general answer. The thing is, there are some materials which are very price sensitive, right? For which we really need to search the markets, search everywhere across the globe to get the best price. Because if we do not have a very strong price for these materials, and they form a very big part of the cogs of the product. And we are in generic pharmaceutical industry, where we fight on every cent, right? So
Yeah,
that's why we would go, say, to India and China, say for example, to get those materials. But there are materials which are available in plenty in, say for example, Europe, and they are not a very strong part of or big part of the cogs of the product. Eventually, see, all of us are. I mean, the role of the procurement eventually is to ensure that we are making our products competitive, right? So that the companies keeps on making margins. So we always, with that end objective in mind, right, we always keep that balance. So wherever we need real good price, and if there is a big difference, we go to the offshore. But if there is a price which is a material which is the price originally doesn't matter to us, right? We prefer to stay onshore, because again, it
yeah.
really helps us if we have something which is nearby.
So my question, in other ways, is is the mandate of de-risking from places like China so strong that sometimes you need to accept a slightly higher price from European suppliers because your boss is telling you stop buying from China, you're going to be, you might get into trouble again. So do you feel that way, or?
No, so see, there is a China plus one strategy which is ongoing from a very long time now, right?
Yeah,
And it's not only China plus one, we have a India plus one, we have a Europe plus one also. What we try to do is we always try to have one supplier from one region and two suppliers in total, but from different regions, right?
yeah,
And then whoever gives us the best price is the majority. Majority gets the majority volume, but we keep the other supplier also warm, right, by giving them some small volume. And then of course, when we take our budgets, we always take a weighted average price, but we ensure from a de-risking point of view, we have two suppliers from two different regions.
mm, makes sense. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just a question for you, Sapan, right? So with that thought, Today, we have a lot of the supply chain risk issues, right? So when you have somebody which is like far away and somebody who is nearer, and if that is a critical component or a service, for example, we would think about let's, buy from people in the same region, perhaps, just to make sure that there are no delays. It's hard to tell these days, right?
No, that's true. See, again, the thing is, if say for example there is a, as I mentioned at the start, everything boils down to how can we make our end products competitive, right? If say for example we are buying something at say $100 from Europe, and we are getting the same product, same material, say from China, same quality, right? Say, European pharmacopoeia at $20, right? We would be compared, because if we will not buy from them, our competitors will buy from China, right? Eventually their product cost will be better, and we will lose all the tenders, for example, right? So we are compelled to do that. And as I mentioned, of course, in order to de-risk it, we will always have, say, a source based out of Europe if it is available. And then say if the source from China or from India is not able to supply, then in any case, in order to keep the product in the market, we will move to the European source, and then we will have to readjust the market volumes, right? So this is how we usually play with it.
Yeah. Okay, Anirban and Kartik, I mean, you're based in India. Is that also a
So
trend that you see happening? I mean,
I'll echo what.
you have excellent suppliers in India too, right? So why do you need to go to China today to buy your stuff, right?
So I'll echo what Sapan said. The same thing happened, that there is a price and there is without compromising the quality. If we get a similar kind of raw material or product and at a say 50% price delta or difference, then we are bound to go. Otherwise, as Sapan rightly pointed out, that we will be out of the market because competition there for every product. There nobody is having any monopoly, so everybody is having a competition. So we have to be relevant to the market. At the same time, even for India, if we are talking about domestic services, production procurement also, we are having multiple suppliers, at least two, because also you need to take care of your risk mitigation plan in a rainy day, how you manage your show. So there will be a mix between cost, distance, reliability, and your risk. So these four parameters, if you have to keep in mind, a multiple supplier with good relationship, trust, mutual trust, but at the same time, cost is still is a determining factor for the last mile or the last call when you have to pick a final call that where we should place the order, where we should give our maximum procurement. Still, cost plays a role.
And also, maybe just to add one thing to Anirban's point, about this India-China thing. See, the thing is, there are products where China is very strong, India cannot compete with China. There are products where India is very strong and China cannot compete with India, right? So you always, like for example, I can give you an example in pharmaceuticals, right? So there is a drug called metformin, which every diabetic person in the world takes. Right, metformin is derived from DCDA. Right, DCDA comes from coal. It's very highly pollution causing product. It is only made in China. So 95% of the total production of DCDA happens in China, right? Because they know how to control that pollution which is caused by
Yeah.
creation of DCDA. But any other country cannot do it, right? So there are things where China has really, really mastered the art, and you have to be dependent. But China is not great in tablets production, say for example, where India is. That's why India is called the pharmacy of the world. Right, so I'm just saying that there are key skills or key strengths of China. There are key strengths of other geographies. So that's what I started off with the comment that we need to understand the market really
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
Right? And then, as a procurement professional, I think that's my responsibility to have my ears to the ground and make the right decisions for the company. Without
Absolutely, you should know what is happening around.
Okay, let's talk about supplier negotiation tactics. What negotiation tactics can procurement professional use to secure favorable terms with suppliers, especially when under pressure to reduce cost? So, if you could share some of those tactics with us, yeah.
So I'll just give my few. I think the negotiation tactics depend on what is the kind of situation the buyer and the seller is. I think generally, if you go for a negotiation school, it's said that there are 12 phases of negotiation, or it depends, whether you're in a monopolistic situation, geopolitical situation, whether you're negotiating with a government entity, whether you have a lot of options available in the market, what kind of dependency do you have with the specific supplier. So, assume a situation, you're purchasing something, which is an extremely common item. You can just tender this requirement and you can just sell it to the cheapest vendor. At the same time, you're purchasing electricity with a state-owned company. In that case, of course, you need to actually figure out, because in this case for you, having electricity to be supplied is the most important thing. You cannot have the state government stopping the electricity. So you need to secure those situations. So the negotiation tactic would be completely different in this specific case. You're purchasing an equipment from a supplier where globally there's only one or two suppliers in the market who can actually give it, and it also depends what kind of dependency the supplier has on you. So I would say there is no one specific negotiation tactic which you can apply. It all depends on the situation, but you need to be very, very sure. You need to understand your situation before you land up in the negotiating table.
Thank you, Kartik. Yeah.
And I would add that for me and my team, we would actually look at everything from the supplier's point of view. Instead of just going in as a customer to just make your demands, even if the supplier is dependent on us, because of this thing called supply relationship management, because you would need that supplier one day. So we have to be respectful and have the trust so that they can be a proper business partner for us, right? So we look at, for example, at the end of the day, what does the supplier actually want? All said and done. Number one, they want to be paid on time. Full stop. It's just as simple as that. Number two is they don't want to make a loss. They are not a charitable organization. So if we know that these are some of the things, we will prepare ourselves to go in with some carrots, and if, for example, we have been owing the supplier some money, I think it's going to make our negotiation very hard. So before you enter that negotiation room, why wouldn't you, procurement, go speak to the CFO and check if there's anything that is owing to this supplier, for example? And that would be the first news you can actually say to the supplier, we have got approval that it will be paid on time this time, assuming we haven't been paying on time, okay? And suddenly that 15% or whatever concession that the supplier wants to give to you becomes very easy already. So that's the way you start from the supplier's point of view first. Their pain points, their problems, try and solve it before you come to, actually we're negotiating this, that, or other, for example. That's one angle.
So, Christina, you think that payment terms is a deal breaker in many negotiations? Because we've seen a lot of companies squeezing suppliers on payment terms and extending those payment terms, especially during COVID when time was hard for, and so it's been playing a very negative effect, right?
Very, very, very. So yes, you may win the battle today, but I think you would have lost that relationship with this particular supplier, So we have to think long term, but of course not with every supplier. So like supply rationalization that Sapan or Kartik was talking about, you would know who are the key players that you really want to build that relationship with, You can't have the same tactic applying to every supplier. So depending on what it is,
Okay.
Just one more point I would like to add. Yeah, that I think specifically, just adding to what Christina said, specifically when you're sitting on a negotiating table, you should always be prepared to give something. You need to be prepared that these are the list of things which I'm ready to give it away. These are not very important for me. Maybe it is important for the supplier, as Christina mentioned. Maybe a big company, as a cash-rich company, might give shorter payment terms, but this would be super important for the supplier, because they would need to manage their working capital. So these are some things which, as a buyer, you should know before you sit on the negotiating
Yep.
table.
Ruth and
And
Anirban, and Sapan, do you agree
And
that
to
payment terms are
add,
also very important?
yeah, I have to add what Dr. Krishna said and Kartik as well. That there is a cliche word called batna that is based alternative to a negotiated agreement. For any procurement or negotiation, first you should have an alternative. Otherwise, it's not a negotiation. It's a one side talk only. So once you have that and you know the batna zone, then you can start talking. And obviously, these are very fundamental things. I'm absolutely in sync with Dr. Krishna when she said that the payment terms and then win-win situation, because this is very basic. If you don't have that, it's not a long-term game, and procurement is not a short-term game. It is not that, because you have to be in the same market or at the same the other side of the table, they are on the same market. So research is very important. So whenever we are sitting for a negotiation, it is very important that we have our research and numbers ready in our hand. We should know that where we want to stop, because whatever we do, everybody has a budgetary constraint.
Yeah.
So there are times maybe we have to stop and we have to say that fine, I think we are not able to, we agree to disagree, and then we move ahead respectfully. So to do so, you should have your batna ready. So you should know your alternative, and then you sit for with an open heart, in negotiation, which gives maximum benefit. And
Okay.
transparency is very important.
Yeah. Thank you,
and
Anirban.
and
Sapan, yeah.
maybe just yeah, just to, so there are a couple of points. The first is, I mean, just to add to your question on payment terms, you see, personally, because we recently concluded a project on payment terms as well, right, where we were talking to suppliers on increasing the payment terms and all, and we were very successful in that. But what I have seen is, personally, payment terms have not been a deal breaker for us, right? Of course, it's a hygiene. You, as Christina mentioned, you need to pay your suppliers in time. That's very clear out, right? But say, for example, if there are some misses, there are certain suppliers who have a shorter payment term, and say, for example, if we miss payments to them, for us, we have not seen that it really holds us back from a strong negotiation with those suppliers, right? Maybe it also helps us in driving the payment terms up, right? Because if you have a higher payment terms, then the chances of paying them one time is even better. But for us, it has not been. I have not seen it as a big impediment. But I consider it under hygiene. It's very important to have the payments done on time to the suppliers. Now, from a how do we negotiate? So we do something called a clean sheet costing for our top products, right? Which means to say that, and that for all time, this is something that we learned from. I mean, when I about 12 years back, we were doing a project with McKinsey. This is something we learned from McKinsey, right? Where, say, for example, for a top product, you need to take a clean sheet of paper and you need to write what are the components of that product. So, say, if, for example, if a supplier is making paracetamol, what is the total process of making a paracetamol? Which are the components which are going into the paracetamol? You don't need to do it for all, only the top products, right? Essentially, and then if you want, you can expand, and then you feel the market, where the market is going for those top products. Right, to say, for example, if you are buying a product which is very highly dependent on energy, very energy intensive, say for example aluminium, right? Aluminium sheets, aluminium manufacture, they're very highly dependent on energy. If the prices of energy are going up, yet they will come to you. You need to be aware of it. But if the prices are going down, you need to proactively go to them and say, see, right, the prices of energy are going down and it is a big component of your production, give it to me. Similarly, say for example, something like Anirban is in ply, so he knows, say for example, if the price of the wood or pulp is going down in the market, we immediately go to our suppliers and say that the price of cellulose, you reduce the price. So again, going back to the same thing, you really need to have your ears to the ground. You need to have a very strong intelligence, procurement intelligence, and we have a very strong procurement intelligence section, right, where we keep our ears to the ground. We understand the market. We have the clean sheet costing for our top products, and whenever we see that something is going down, we would reach out proactively to the suppliers, and when they come to us, we understand, right? So it's not that they come to us and we will be like, why are you doing this? Okay, let's talk about 5%, 10%. No, we are very, very scientific in our negotiations, and that really helps us a lot. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
just
the
going
other
back to
point is,
Patna. Yeah,
Yeah.
just going back to Batna is where sometimes the supply is really tight on working capital. And Although the
Yes.
payment terms is 45 days, for example, but the supplier would say, I will give you X% of concession now if you can pay me within 30 days, for example, because you're really tight for cash, right? So these are some of the things that we need to know whether it's a walkaway point or not. Where is that limit, right? And the cost of money. We need to take that, and we may not be the accountant to actually know if I get a 20% discount from the supplier, if I pay him, 15 days earlier, who is supposed to be gaining more, right? That kind of analysis, we may not be in a position to handle,
But Krishna, this is something that we do on a regular basis in our procurement
Yeah,
team, right? Because
yeah,
there are cases when maybe we will accept 1 or 2 cents more from a supplier because they are giving
yep,
us 90 days as compared to 60 days
yep,
that we are getting,
yep,
because that is a net cash positive impact for
yep,
us.
yep,
And we cash is very important for all the companies, right? So we have to take that decision not only from a cost perspective, but also from a cash perspective, again,
yep,
depending on how important that specific material is to the cogs of the
yes,
product.
yes,
Right. So,
correct.
so that's why it's a holistic decision that we need to take, considering a lot of things, and we
Mm-hmm.
do it regularly.
I wanted to get a Ruth opinion as well. Ruth, based on your own experience in Indonesia and negotiating with suppliers, is shorter payment terms a key component of it?
Okay, thank you, Max. For me in Indonesia, the shorter lead or longer lead time make only not a big impact, yeah, to the cost of the product I purchase. First of all, I need to know the position of my company in the eyes of the supplier. If my volume of the raw material, let's say, is big, yeah, and then I have the confidence that I can win the negotiation, then I will not put attention to make a shorter lead time of the payment. And then I have faced also for the commodity item I purchased, like a copper wire. The base material is copper. Copper is a commodity. And then I know that the price is very sensitive and I cannot handle for the cost increase or decrease. And then I also cannot handle for the conversion cost. And then that's why I make the negotiation on the variable cost uh, of the supplier. So they give me cost reduction about 5%, and then they ask me to shorten the lead time. And because I know that my company has a strong position in the eyes of them, and then I don't want to accept the shortened lead time, so I keep as the longer lead time as the other suppliers as 120 days. But what our company guaranteed to the supplier is by paying by LC. So they also can be firm that they will get the payment in time. So maybe we can negotiate with the supplier not only for the payment term itself, but also how the payment method we can give them and gain the win-win solution.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So we have some questions and comments on the chat. I wanted to take them one by one. The first one is from Shanda, who's asking, do you think the personal resourcing team should have focus on networking capital, even if the organization is cash rich? And where is the line drawn? Anybody would like to respond to this?
Maybe I can add to it. So see, again, if the company is cash rich, then it's about what is the priority for you, right? So maybe at that point of time, net working capital might not be the highest priority, and at that time you can look at the other parameters for negotiation, right? And this also comes from, I mean, when you talk about where the line has to be drawn, it also comes from the management on the direction that the management is giving. Because in our organization, we get very clear directions. Of course, we are also a part of it, but we are very clear on when do we need to press the panic button on ensuring that we have enough networking capital, and cases where we are more relaxed. So this is
Yeah,
how we
my
usually
my
work.
yeah, my humble view is that we need to get fair value for what we are buying. Okay, so it doesn't matter if we are rich or poor or whatever, but is that a fair value price that we are paying for that item or service? So of course, with all the analysis and all that, it doesn't mean when you have money in a company, you can afford to just pay extra because you're just spoiling that relationship. Think long-term again. So what happens tomorrow if you're not so rich anymore, and your contract would have locked in that high rate, for example, and now you want to go back and negotiate, but you accepted it before. See, so it's not whether you're rich or poor at this time, but what is the fair value that one should pay for that service or product is the question.
So just one more thing.
I agree with what Dr. Krishna said. See, it doesn't matter whether you are cash rich, the organization cash rich, or the organization is struggling with the cash. We are responsible for an area where we have to be cautious and we have to be prepared for a rainy day. And we should not, start relaxing that today I am cash rich. So every moment we have to be, in cognizance of the fact we have to be cautious that what we do, what we act, how we act. The cash richness is not the indicator for taking decisions.
Okay, Kartik.
No, I think a lot of these points have already been covered. Maybe I think we can move to the next topic.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. I wanted to take and discuss quickly the use of technology on this topic, and how do you think tools, our current tools, the AI, data analytics, can be leveraged to optimize procurement processes and monitor the pricing effectively? Do you find it useful? Do you use some kind of tools or technology to do this? Can you maybe share your experience here?
Kartik, why don't you start? Actually, we are pushing you every time we are starting. So, Kartik, why don't you start this time?
All right, I'll start. So one of the technologies which was used in my previous organization was we had developed bots to basically negotiate and get quotations and negotiate with suppliers whom we did not want to deal with person to person, because these were some regular day-to-day items where, I mean, as a person, as an organization, we really did not want to invest in these suppliers in terms of time. So a lot of these activities, can be done by bots. I mean, the supplier is well aware that bot is getting in touch with the supplier or multiple suppliers. They're putting the price. Once the price has been agreed, automatically, if the supplier has a vendor code, the supplier gets the purchase order for that specific entity or the specific country. So we would see that more and more of technology being used, on a day-to-day activities, and I believe human interventions would only be required, during complex negotiations and where strategic alignments or strategic importance is required, specifically dealing with suppliers.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
I would like to just say this, right? I mean, all of us here and everyone who's on this call, we all understand the importance of, technology in procurement. It's preaching to the choir. But today in APAC, the issue is about the adoption. A lot of the companies, I'm going to go from global companies who have offices in APAC, from pan-Asian companies themselves in APAC, or even the SMEs. Their procurement teams are not given that opportunity yet to really get into technology. Sometimes you'd be amazed to see global companies, they haven't even adopted, e-procurement, for instance, let alone bots or RPA or whatever, AI and so on, because of the notion that technology is expensive. Oh, we need to do so much change. So the change management mindset is still lurking around in Asia. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Okay. On more specifically on pricing negotiations and engaging with suppliers, what kind of technology do you guys are using? I mean, the past few years, we've seen a lot of companies doing online auctions, for example,
Yep.
which, to some extent has been quite useful. Is it still fashionable right now, or do you see other things, other types of tools or mechanism online being used?
So, Max, just to convey the message from India market, if I have to talk about, it is absolutely in place. We are using the online platform for a lot of bidding business specifically, and it gives lots of transparency as well because it's real time. Each other can see their ranking, so that because what happened that the trust is very important for negotiation, and especially when there are multiple suppliers are there. So we also try to ensure that there is a maximum transparency among each of them, so that they feel that this workplace is not a bias to anyone. So that is the technology helps us to bring that parity among the all the the supplier or the channel partner. At the same time, it gives a lot of visibility, analytics, real-time analytics. We get a lot of help to take uh, leading indicator, which helps us to take decision much more faster. So technology, end of the day, is the way forward. Whether we accept, we like, we don't like, and I absolutely agree with Dr. Christina that it takes a lot of courage to bring the technology, because there is a lot of change management, and there is a fear associated to technology that once technology comes, then what will be my role, what will be my my scope. So there is a amount of courage also associated with technology.
Yeah, so we have actually a question about e-auctions. Louis is asking, what's your experience with using e-auctions? What are your advice, the do's and the don'ts? If you could, share a little bit your experience in using e-auctions. Yeah.
So if I have to answer, my experience with e-auction is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Three do's. First of all, you have to ensure that first do is that you have to give enough time, because time is something which helps for a quality decision. You have to be transparent enough to ensure that your channel partner having a confidence on you that there is uh, no mind game, or there is not a single percent of any unfair practices in the system. And third thing is that you have to quickly respond to the result of the e-auction, because what happened that once the e-auctions comes, and the best thing is that the result should go from the system automatically. So that again brings the transparency and the the credibility of the system. The
Yep.
three don'ts.
Yep.
Don't
And
don't bring the visibility for yourself also. So when the live e-auction is happening, nobody should have the visibility that who is coming first, who is coming second, or the lowest or the highest. That is one thing. Second thing is that the don'ts is something that do not try to further negotiate. Whatever results coming from the e-auction, don't try to do further negotiate offline, because that reduce the importance of the e-auction.
Yeah.
yeah,
And third thing is that have a stable e-auction platform. So there is a don't. If you say that don't opt for a cheap e-auction platform, because it is very important that the real time the auction should conduct seamlessly. So these are the three do's and don'ts from my side.
Yeah. Yeah. Christina.
yeah. Just to add to that is, I am for auction, but not everything can be applied. Okay, so it depending on what it is. If it's all those commodities where you throw a stone, you have a lot of suppliers out there, that sort of thing. Yes, you can use that. The one thing that is a must to me is the supplier onboarding. Do not assume that all the suppliers out there, they understand the system, whatever, because the time is going to come when suppliers will say, I didn't know I had to do that. I didn't know that this button is for that, blah, blah, blah. Then it creates that chaos, and then there will be complaints about you have not been fair, and I didn't get a chance to do this. I wasn't aware of that. So a lot of all those noise could be put away if only you have a transparent supplier onboarding process when you
And
launch this.
yeah, and some testing, because sometimes,
Yeah,
the
test as well.
the
Pilots.
suppliers are not prepared and properly, and
Yes,
they haven't tested the platform. Yeah. No,
correct,
that's a good
correct.
point. Yeah. And we've seen sometime, and going back to Anirban point, some companies sometimes renegotiating after
Yeah.
there's a winner, which is an awful mistake for a lot of
Terrible.
companies.
It's
But
terrible.
it's still happening today. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Ruth, what's your experience with e-auction? Have you used it in Indonesia? Does it work? Yeah.
Okay. Regarding the e-auction, actually not a real e-auction I have ever faced, yeah, but like a supplier relationship management, negotiation or bidding. But yes, like Anirban and Dr. Christina, yeah, I face so many chaos, and also it takes my time, yeah, by using this e-auction. Even I was in the multinational company, and it takes all the procurement teams very much time, because we need to educate the vendors, yeah, not even big vendors, yeah, we say, or big company have so familiar with the online bidding, you say, yeah. But that's why it makes us our job even become difficult, yeah. That's
Yeah,
why
onboarding.
yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, the importance of training and onboarding when you do those auctions, yeah, very important. Sapan, Kartik, what's your experience with e-auctions? Yeah.
In pharmaceuticals, I can tell you, it's not very popular because, like Christina mentioned, we have a very small supplier base because we have to, register, and cost of adding a supplier is quite a bit. And also for every supplier which is added, we have to pay, to maintain those suppliers in the file. So for us, it has, and then we talk about supplier consolidation, right? So say, for example, for every material, we will have two suppliers, maximum three suppliers. We always prefer to have two only. So that's why e-auctions are not very popular for us. But definitely, when we, because I've done it in the past, so what for me, it has always been the case that, in the auctions, we are really focusing a lot on price. But essentially, we sometimes tend to miss the parameters like lead times and all, which can really play a very strong role. So the point here is that price has to be given a certain weightage, but we have to consider the other, also the supplier relationship management, the reputation of the supplier, the financial strength of a supplier, right? You don't want to sign up a supplier which will go bankrupt in the next few months or something. So I think it has to be, say, a consideration of several factors.
Okay. All right. Kartik, have you used it? Does it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, we've used e-auctions, and I think we're pretty much happy. But one thing which I believe which we need to do before we go ahead with the e-auction should be the last point of contact. All the requirements, all the scoping, all the technical specifications needs to be aligned before the auction, because once you go for an e-auction, it's basically a bidding war. It's a price war. Whoever wins, needs to be awarded the contract.
Do you see some suppliers, refusing to take part in auctions sometimes?
I mean, we personally have not seen. I mean, of course, they're always reluctant to participate in an e-auction because, in this specific case, during uh, during a face-to-face negotiation, one thing which we need to understand is there's nothing called as a win-win situation. In a negotiation, one always loses. The question is how much, and the supplier has a far better opportunity to, maybe possibly, get his or her weight in a face-to-face negotiation. But when you when you bid them against the market, uh, they have to, they have to provide the best pricing available in any auction platform for them to win the prize. So in that case, there's a good possibility that the margins are decreased. And sometimes we've also seen that suppliers have picked up the products or picked up the tender. In a very, very low margin just because they want to retain the business.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They hate e-auctions, okay? Because we will have an upper hand, and they don't know how much more lower to go. So it's like gambling. It's hard, and they prefer face to face, of course.
Okay, so we got a few more minutes. I just want to wrap up maybe with some final tips or advice. If there was one tip or advice that you could give to procurement professional in relation to the theme of the session today, in better negotiation, managing pricing and so on, what would be your ultimate tip for people?
For me,
Just
I
one
think
tip, one advice.
the one advice would be the intelligence, right? You need to be very strong on your intelligence on what's happening in the market, and then you need to act fast.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Ruth,
For me,
Anirban,
sorry.
Christina. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's to treat our suppliers as business partners and respect them. Because today you may not need them, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So build that long-term relationship and keep that, collaboration going, because it will bring a lot of value at the end for both sides. So supply relationship management is key. Yeah.
Stay connected even if you don't actively work with them right now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yep.
Anirban?
So I'll echo actually perhaps that research. You need to do a lot of research, communicate and know your position to build a supply relationship. So you have to be aware what is happening around.
Okay, good
Without
market
that,
intelligence.
everything will fall in place. Will fall away.
Okay, Ruth?
Yes, I also agree with Dr. Christina. We have to maintain our relationship with our vendors because they are our business partner. And I also the one who get so many information and help from them. How to cost reduction. Also, sometimes the supplier can give me some advice. So then we need to have a strong relationship with our suppliers. Also, we have to enlarge our knowledge on the products we are purchasing, and also we need to know we have to have the wide supplier database. So we need we know when we face like a late supply, we have to go where something.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, Kartik, your final tip?
Yes, go prepared to a negotiation. In any negotiations which you're going, ensure that you're completely prepared. And also be prepared that if the negotiations do not go your way, if a drastic step needs to be taken, I mean, you need to ensure that you keep the management well informed before that, so that you don't land up in a precarious situation where you'll have to accept something which might not be acceptable to the management.
All right. With that, thank you very much for being with us today, sharing your insight. It was an interesting topic. Talking about supplier relationship management, we are actually planning to run a discussion probably in December or January. I'll keep you posted. So we will talk about this. This is an important topic, which, as Christina and all of you mentioned, is always kind of underestimated by a lot of companies. So we will do a discussion of this. Thank you again, Kartik, Sapan, Christina, Ruth, and Anirban for being with us today. Thanks for all those questions. Again, session is being recorded, so if you couldn't make it today, you'll be able to see it in a few hours. And again, we look forward to see you at our next event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Next. Bye.